Hey, everybody. Jeff Colson here, junior hockey advisor. Happy whatever this is. Is this it's Valentine's Day. Yeah, happy Valentine's Day, everybody. How you doing there, Mr. Bloom?
I am doing well. Happy Valentine's Day for you. No other person I'd rather spend this day with than you.
I know that's the case. I know that's the case. Glad to hear that. I'm actually trying to move through different cameras. I'm not on the camera I'm normally on, so it is what it is. See, I'm on that one right now. Okay, listen, got something new for you tonight. I'm going to surprise you with something. Oh, by the way, folks, junior hockey advisor, we're here. We are not advisors. We actually work in the hockey industry. Mr. Bloom is a full day development guy. He works all day teaching hockey, coaches two teams, and also is the director for a North American Hockey League team. I also work all day, not on the ice, but with parents and players. And then I turn around and work for a null team, same team. No secret there that we do this. We've been at it a long time, probably a combined 50 plus years. And we do this not as advisors, but as people trying to explore the game and it help you understand anything from the least biased position we possibly can. And hope that helps a little bit. The anything you want to add to that, Mike?
Yeah, I think we always try to, provide information, facts, and things like that to any of the different views that we try to, share with everybody else. And you typically do a good job of, showing the different sites that we do get the information from. So it kind of takes the opinion out of it in some cases where we're just presenting the information and then you guys as viewers take that and, make the best choices for yourselves.
That's the facts, Jack. That's the way to put it. I love it. Okay, so tonight I'm going to surprise you with something new, Mike, but I want to remind everybody that there were some comments that I made this week, the last few days in the discussion group, the over 11,000 people junior hockey advisor discussion group. And one of the things I did was I said, we'll discuss it tonight. We'll discuss it on Wednesday. Still have that cough, Mike. Still have that cough. The only problem is that I sat down and the notebook is on the other side of the house. So if you're on and you want to discuss the topic that we talked about, just jump into the chat and just give me a verbal or a written reminder in the chat room, and I'll be glad to get back on track there. But I'm not getting up while we're on the air here. So what we're going to try this. What's really popular these days with those kids is reaction videos. So what I thought we'd do, Mike, is I thought we'd pull up another hockey video of somebody, spitting their hockey knowledge, and let's do a reaction video. You and I will watch it and we'll react to it. Does that sound fun?
Yeah, I've never done that before. So hopefully, I got enough good information off this video to share.
All right, well, we'll give it a shot here. We're going to do that in a second. Hello to everybody coming on. Glad to see you. As the audience grows here at the beginning. The other thing too is we're watching all the comments coming in. Dave Kennedy's on tonight. I see him. Hey, Dave, how you doing? And I haven't seen Kelly in years. Maybe that's not true, but I haven't seen you in a long time. They're good to see you on too. Feel free to put comments up, folks. Feel free to say hi. But we did see that Dave is doing a great job of collecting just some information, some general information on what we need to do to improve. One of the unique things is people say we don't know what time we're on. We're in our 5th week of this new year at the same time, 9:00 on Wednesdays. So we're gonna start advertising that better, and we're gonna take that list and be very serious about some things we can improve, and we'll see how that goes. So with that said, let's set this up. This is the video I grabbed. I haven't watched yet because that's one of the things that my kids said was, hey, you can't watch it ahead of time. Well, I don't believe that. I watched a couple of these reaction videos today with music and politics, but we didn't watch this video. I grabbed it. I shouldn't say we because I didn't tell Mike anything about this. We're going to take the video. We're going to put it up. We're going to watch it, and we're going to react. and see how things are going. And see what we're gonna be nice though. We're not gonna try to trash anybody or ruin anybody's reputation. But you ready, Mike?
I'm ready. I'm excited now. You hyped it up here.
I know. Okay, so that's the video, and you and I are on the bottom.
Yep.
I think we're ready to go. So BCHL agrees the terms. Oh, no, it's right on the bottom there. It says BCHL-AJHL Expansion, what this means and what happens next. Sounds like a good topic, doesn't it?
Well, yeah, let's do it.
And it's from the group doing this video is right there on the bottom. It says
AHA.
AHA. Do you know anything about AHA?
I've seen them. Okay,
that's one step ahead of me. So, okay, ready to roll?
Yep.
So I guess what we do is we're going to watch it. I think we have to stop and chat about it as we go along, right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of how those reaction videos go.
Yeah. All right. I'm ready to react, man. You know what? I'm going to
hit it. Let's see it.
Well, we're not advertising for Dr. Pepper, but I have a Dr. Pepper I'm going to drink while we're doing this. If I had some popcorn, I'd have that too. All right, let's do this.
Now, what does that mean for the rest of Canada? This is huge news.
Oh,
the BCHL is expanding. Now, what does that mean for the rest of Canada? This is huge news. Welcome back, everybody, to another AHA video, and today we're talking about some huge news in the Junior A level in Canada. Spruce Grove, Sherwood Park, Brooks, Blackfalds, and Okotoks. 5 of the top AJHL programs will be joining the BCHL next season. That is huge, huge news. Both pros and cons. Now, that means that the BCHL is becoming more and more competitive year after year. They are trying to chase the USHL. They are
whoa. Okay. We're just getting into this. I don't even think we're a minute in yet. This guy's he's throwing some stuff out there we should respond to. Okay. Huge news on a scale of 1 to 10. Do you believe it's huge news at this point?
Yeah, I think it's pretty big news.
What was bigger news? The BCHL leaving the union, seceding, or the teams from the AJ, joining the BC?
Well, I think they're both big. They're both big power shifts, but I think that those 5 teams, we talked about it in another podcast, they're basically the top teams in the AJ that are now breaking off and going to the BC League. So that definitely strengthens the BC League, but it also kind of puts the rest of the AJ in flux. And then who knows what the domino effect, from this move has with these other teams.
Okay, so now you're starting to say some things that I might have to comment on. I'm going to watch this guy first, and we'll try to throw it all together. This guy's name is Stefano. You ever seen him before?
No, I haven't.
He's got a goalie helmet on the backside. Production value is good. You got to say that. Comes straight out with the little logos going bam, bam. Got to like that part of it. So, all right, let's give a guy a little bit more rope here.
They're trying to make a Tier 1 Junior A league that is just as competitive, just as dominant, and just as high valued as the USHL. Now, how far are they from the USHL? It's hard to tell. The USHL is an extremely strong league.
Stop. They're going to try to be just as competitive and just as dominant. All right, let's usually to become more competitive and more dominant, it would be reduction of teams so that your talent pool is stronger from top to bottom. Is that a fair statement?
That's one way.
Okay, well, do you add 5 teams from a lesser league and become stronger?
It all depends on what your definition of stronger is.
The answer is no. The league's going to grow. That's great, but they're not going to get more talent because they added more teams. So to say they're competing with the USHL, which is very limited on the amount of the teams they have and has the national training and development program, the only way you would be able to do that is to reduce the amount of teams in the BCHL So there's the amount of strong players is much higher, right?
I mean, in theory, yes, but I think this also strengthens their league also.
I'm not saying in the long run it's not going to strengthen the league, but it's you can't add teams and become more competitive with the top team, the top league out there.
I think he's saying that that's
counterproductive.
their goal, not that
Yeah.
they've arrived already and they're, competing head to head with the USHL.
Got it. Okay, I can hear that. Let's go. Not picking on Stefano here too much. We're just trying to see if we agree. And
There's a reason 95% of those players go D1. However, with this move, I think that they're making their way up there and catching up for sure. They're making the league that much more competitive by bringing in more teams. That also means there's more opportunities for dominant hockey players to play at the best hockey level they possibly can and give themselves the best chance to chase their dreams. And again, I say the best because the BCHL is the strongest league in Canada by far. Adding these programs make it even more stronger, especially that it's part of the unsanctioned league now, because in the unsanctioned league they can pick up players from anywhere around the world whenever they want. This allows to make a competitive hockey level. That's the only way to do it. If you want to have the best of the best on the ice, you need to have less limitations so that you can bring in the best hockey players to put them on the ice and make the most competitive league across Canada. There's a reason that everybody across North America wants to play there, because they know it is incredible hockey. On that
whoa. You got anything to say so far?
I mean, it's definitely a fluff piece, but I can agree with parts of that. I don't think it's number one. It's not the greatest league in Canada unless you take away the WHL and the OHL.
Yeah,
and even
well, I think he is just talking about anything non-major junior. I'll give him that, but I think maybe just hasn't really taken time to listen to what he was saying. He already said the BCHL was the best league in Canada. Then he turns around and says, this will make them the best league in Canada. Yeah, I don't really, and also I thought we were talking about North America and trying to compete with the USHL. So I'm a little bit off on what the clear messaging is here. He's excited. And, once again, the production value is cool. And I like the goalie helmets nailed to the wall in the back there and screwed into the wall. That's cool. Jerseys are cool. But the thing that, what I did while I was sitting here is I pulled up on another screen just who this is. I know that's probably cheating in the reaction video game. But this is a goalie. We kind of figured that out. But he's an East Coast guy. He might not really know as much about the BCHL as they let on. Another thing I'm doing while we're speaking here is just going to Elite Prospects and looking at the firm he works for and to see if they have any BCHL clientele or AJ clientele. And at least according to Elite Prospects, they don't, which would lead me to say that, this is doing a video off of general knowledge, not going deep into a deep dive here. So it is what it is.
The whole point of this is obviously that it's definitely strengthening the BCHL. I think we're going a little too extreme with how much it's going to strengthen it, but
yeah,
I can see the excitement from a lot of people though. That's where this is coming from.
All right, let's keep going a little bit here.
That note, let's look at the other side. What's going to happen with the AJHL now? Are they going to be a 5-6 team league? I don't assume so. We don't have all the information yet, but
there are already 11 teams left. How can you be a 5 or 6 team league if there's already not enough homework's been done on this? Yeah, I'm not going to harp on that one too much, but they're not a 5. When you take away the 5 teams, they still have 11 left. So even though there may be a couple expansion teams that come in to replace the 5 teams, I don't think any homework's been done on this.
I assume there will be 3 or 4 expansion teams coming to the AJHL to continue to make it a dominant league, because the AJHL was the second most dominant league in Canada. If they want to keep that dominance, they want to keep that exposure and the want from these players, they're going to need to expand and include some new teams. Now, do they take...
I don't know about that. Do you agree with that, Mike?
I mean, I don't know what direction they're going to go. I think there's been rumors that, the MJ or the SJ, they may, kind of create a super league between them or one of them. Obviously, expansion's always, an option, but taking some of the heavy hitters out of that league, even if you expand into some other areas, I think the strength of that conference has definitely fallen. So
Oh,
grabbing a
it's
couple of
clearly
the
taking
top
a hit.
teams like the MJ, could help reinforce, the league again. So honestly, I don't know what they're going to do. And my point that I said originally was just it's huge news because it's really shaken up Hockey Canada and it's shaken up the junior leagues out there with these 5 teams moving over. And just the way that it was handled was probably not done the right way, but it really made an impact for sure.
Yeah, the thing about it is historically this is probably the third or fourth league shakeup like this I've dealt with since I been in junior hockey. I've gone through it twice as an owner, gone through it as a coach. This is one of those things where it usually looks like the end of the world for somebody at first, and then everybody falls into place. When the USPHL formed from the EJ and the Empire, those were the 2 leagues on the East Coast that were made up the hierarchy, and they worked together. Usually, owners were the same. The EJHL and the Empire team were, it was their 2 teams were in the same ownership group. Usually, in that case, when the USPHL before the NCDC started their own league, there was a lot of teams that were left out because what it was getting rid of a lot of teams that, for whatever reason, were not ready to be a USPHL team, quote unquote, according to the people that ran the USPHL. What did that do? It created the EHL, and it created one of the strongest tier 3 focused on D3 talent leagues there are. And it's been very consistent since they made that change. So what was thought would be leftovers ended up being something good. And I only bring that up because I don't panic on these situations. The ship's always right, but you're not going to see a major shift between the provinces because all those teams that are left are all, for the most part, tied to their communities very strong, and they're tied to Alberta hockey, the provincial hockey, with very deep ties. So I think it's going to stay pretty much status quo in the AJ with the subtraction of 1 or 2 teams, the addition of a few teams, but I don't think you're going to see much difference there. But that really doesn't have any much to do with our man Stefano there. Let's get back and see it. And once again, not picking on him, man. Get out there and say what you got to say. That's pretty strong. So I'm not saying that what Stefano's doing out here is that a good thing. I think he's doing a good thing for hockey in general here. Let's get back to him and see what else he says.
Teams from another league, do they have new teams? We don't know yet. The rumors are that there's going to be 4 expansion teams. We will wait to see if that's true or not. Another thing that kind of hurts Alberta a bit is now, before already all the best players wanted to go play in the BCHL, but they also wanted to go play in programs like Brooks. Now that Brooks is out of the question, a lot of the top recruits in Alberta will be looking to go to the BCHL directly rather than staying and playing in their local league where they had top tier programs that had NHL exposure. The better question is, what is Hockey Canada going to do? Because this is a movement showing that more and more associations want to go to that unsanctioned route where they can put the best talent on the ice, since technically speaking, Junior A is a top level hockey. The best of the best should play. Are they going to punish these teams? Are they going to punish the AJHL? What is going to happen? You can see it both ways. A lot of people, a lot of parents are upset about the unsanctioned leagues out there and that it's ruining the game, as it is making it more difficult for their kids to make the team, which at the end of the day, it's already difficult. It's Junior A hockey. It's not meant for everyone.
Okay, a lot of things said there. First, let's deal with the parents. I don't think there's a big uproar on the parent side at all. We're 40,000+ deep on this, and we're getting with the amount of our followers and our members. And this is probably even as big of a story as it is. There's been very few parents that have been upset on this compared to some other topics that have come up over the last 4 or 5 years. So I think just with the having a pulse of that many people, we'd have heard about it. Junior hockey, a kid that's in Alberta that wants to stay in Alberta still has the ability, because those teams aren't moving to the BCHL, physically. They're staying right where they're at. So if you want to play in Alberta and you want to play, close home and play for, a really good organization, they're still in Alberta. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I think that's what he was saying, that they're running to the BC League, meaning that the top Alberta kids are going to want to try to play on those Alberta BCHL teams.
Yeah, I agree, but the way it came across is that they're losing their talent only by the proximity of the league. I don't think this unsanctioned, unclean league really is that big of a deal. Yeah, the Hockey Canada can do some things, but they really can't punish the AJHL. Why would they? There's the AJHL didn't do anything.
I think there's been some things with the commissioner in the AJHL, knowing that this has been rumored to be going on for years now, maybe even as far back as 10 years. And there was some mismanaging that has happened from the league's perspective to not keep this from actually happening. So maybe Hockey Canada can be upset with the league for not doing more in this case, or maybe the league can be upset with Hockey Canada for not doing more. I mean, I
think that's the side. I think that's the side that you mentioned that's a little bit more realistic is, the AJ being upset with Hockey Canada, because everybody thinks that, Hockey Canada could have done something on this and there's retribution involved. There's a huge lawsuit in the States. I don't know if there's any legal precedents in the Canadian area, but there's precedents on the USA Hockey cannot, hold people against going to a renegade league or an outside league, and they cannot punish a kid that wants to participate in that and then try out for the national development program or have the ability to play for a national team. So right. I know we have precedents down here, but I would imagine because the USA Hockey's already gone through it and there's such a strong relationship with Canada and Hockey Canada that conversation's been had about, how it's, if it hasn't already been, put into the courts, then, what they using the USA Hockey side is an example. I'm trying to read to at the same time. Kelly's comment here. I'm going to show this across the screen. Foreign players with national team intentions will have to be attentive to those rules, as many of those teams require playing for the sanctioned leagues. Just what I said. So thank you, Kelly, and glad you jumped on tonight. You make me look like I'm more on point. So thank you. But yeah, I fully agree with that statement. And I guess you just said it more eloquently, Kelly. I appreciate that. Let's get back to our man here.
Everybody. It is meant for the best players. Not everybody gets that opportunity. Not everybody earned that opportunity. You needed to work as hard as possible to get there. So I can understand the frustration from most of these parents, because everybody thinks that little Jimmy and little Timmy deserve to be at the best level and they're going D1 and they're going pro. And that's fine. It's your son. You're supposed to think that way of them. However, this just shows that the competitiveness is much higher than expected and that teams want the competitiveness. They want that next level hockey and they're pushing for that direction. In the unsanctioned rules, you can pick up players from anywhere. There's no cross-border issues. If a player is cut or released, he can leave. If a player is not happy, he can pick up and leave. The pro of this is players will earn opportunities. If you're playing in the OJHL and you're dominating, you can get picked up at any point by a stronger program and go earn more ice times and play versus the better level players. Whereas before with sanctioned hockey, your coach could have made sure you go nowhere, ask a ridiculous amount for you and not trade you, not release you. And then on the other side of it, the reason I think these unsanctioned leagues kind of started coming up is because there's so many coaches out there that will blacklist players. Now, what that means is if they have a bad relationship with them or if they don't want to play versus them, they will hide them. 16-year-old gets into the OJHL, you know he's going to be a top tier player, but you don't want to lose him to the BCHL. You give him fourth line minutes, 3-4 minutes a game. He can't produce, he can't look good. You'll know for sure you'll have him a second year.
Okay. I don't agree with this statement at all. First of all, yes, there's coaches out there, old school coaches, that retribution is part of it. We all know that. And there's teams that have that reputation. But vast majorities of coaches do it the right way. If a kid's not happy and it wants to be traded, you're not going to blacklist a kid and put him down your roster. What do? You get rid of him. And the AJ has probably got the reputation of better than anybody of just, okay, you're not happy? Boom, let's trade, which is pretty much the junior way across the board. Do you agree with that, Mike?
Yeah, but I think where it comes into play, and I don't agree with his statement necessarily, but with your statement, sometimes they'll trade you to the worst team in the league. You may get traded and
Absolutely.
moved, but it may not be to a place you're going to continue your development or be in a great spot either.
But remember, coaches are trying to win.
Oh, I
If
know.
coaches are trying to win, they're not going to, they're not walking around with black coats and little black hats on, going, how can I screw with my roster? Because that makes a cancer in the locker room. And if there's a cancer in the locker room because of you trying to, puppeteer everything, what does that do? You don't gain anything as a coach. You don't have a good locker room. Then you don't have any camaraderie. You don't have any team building because you're going to divide the locker room because good players want to play with good players. And if there's a great player that's sitting in the bench because the coach wants to, screw with his career, I'm not saying it hasn't happened. It just, that's not the norm anymore. Or if
Yeah.
ever it was the norm.
Yeah, there might be a couple examples of that even still, but it's not like it's happening for multiple kids on all the teams and it's like this widespread problem or anything.
And I don't want to hear it if it's still happening to say that's the norm.
Right.
That's a bias that doesn't make any sense. It's illogical to say, to be able to point to one and say, oh, look there in the Northern Ontario Junior Hockey League. See, he just did it. Okay. It's with all the teams in the CJHL, it's going to happen somewhere. But that's not the norm. I don't buy into that.
And then from there, he'll do well, help your team out. Whereas now with this unsanctioned rule, they can pick up and leave. They can go NCDC. They can go BCHL. On the flip side, I've seen coaches cut players and then because of a poor relationship, because of poor attitude, they decide, well,
you're not going to play hockey. I'm not releasing you. I'm not letting go of your rights. I'm not going to trade you. So you're going to be in the stands for me every game, or you're going to go to my junior B team.
I think that's the reason these unsanctions began. But now,
No.
Did he change his voice there? What happened?
Yeah, well, that's good production, man. I don't mind
That's
that at all.
awesome.
I think he's just got a, I think he's got a filter on to make his voice sound like that, or he just slow it down. But that's he's doing rapper kind of stuff, man. He's he's taking this to another level. I don't mind that at all. I think that's cool. Good job for you on that, Stefano. That's a cool little move there. But what you're spitting doesn't make any sense. Okay, first of all, you can't compare the NCDC that has 10 new commits a year. And if you don't believe me, you can go and look that up yourself on College Hockey Inc. to the BCHL, which is always competing for 2 or 3 with the null, on the percentage of players that go into the league. Right now, the percentage of players that go in the league into NCAA Division I hockey, the BCHL is a better percentage per team. The null has an overall higher number at the end of the year because the null has 32 teams. When you're twice as big, you're going to have more commitments. So, and they fight that number back and forth on the amount of commitments that go in every year. So
I think his point though was just the movement, and since the NCDC is independent, there's no restrictions on whether a player can move, just like now with the BC.
I fully agree, but that you can lose that in the weeds when people go, huh? You're comparing the BCHL to the NCDC, so or putting them on the same level. That was my point. I don't know if you can put it on the same level. Okay, Candace says unsanctioned BCHL went this route because of Hockey Canada, and is a good thing for hockey in BC and in Canada. No arguments there. No arguments at all. That's been a fight that's been going on for years, and owners, general manager of these teams, this has been something that they just haven't liked the handcuffs that Hockey Canada have put on them. So good statement, Candace. Nobody, or Candy, I'm sorry. Nobody's arguing that statement. All right, let's get back to our boy Stefano. Keep going there. I want to see some of the other highlighted tricks he's got here with this production.
As you can see, more and more of the top programs in the country are going to the unsanctioned route. Does that mean all the other leagues are going to start to follow that direction so that they get the same freedoms as these top leagues and they can go get players, right? Because it's hard to compete versus the top league that already they're the best league and everybody wants to play there. But now they're unsanctioned, so they can scoop up and steal your players at any point. Any point. So does that mean you become unsanctioned so that you can take that risk and just go get the players you want? Who knows?
Hey, he's got a good point there. Nobody saw the USPHL expanded at the tier 3 level the way they did. They started picking up leagues and They picked up the Michigan leagues and the Minnesota leagues and the Western States leagues. They started combining these leagues, and I mean, they created the first coast to coast tier 3 league. Nobody expected that, no, to the level they're at. I mean, I don't know what their number of tier 3 teams are right now. I can look that up, but it's expansive, and they're the largest league, junior league in the world, and they're not sanctioned by USA Hockey. So he's got a valid point there. That's extremely strong. Just not when you're a little tiny postage stamp on the bottom of a screen.
I thought you were putting your video back on.
Nodding in agreement doesn't help the audience know where you stand on things.
Who knows? This is huge news in the junior A level. Absolutely tremendous. It does open your eyes to seeing what'll come in the near future. What is the next step for everybody? What is the skepticism? I guarantee you there's a lot of coaches that are taking a step back and thinking,
maybe we should do this too. Maybe everybody should go the unsanctioned route and just have the most competitive hockey leagues.
or it goes the other way and coaches are like,
We need to put an end to this. We need to make sure we don't lose our players to the unsanctioned route.
at the end of the day, a player just wants to play the best possible hockey out there and get themselves to the next level. So if their better solution is going to be to play in the CCHL, they'll play there to get more minutes, to get more exposure, to get themselves to D1. If their better solution is going to play BCHL, they'll do the same thing. So I believe that teams are going to take a hard look and maybe change the mindset to see what is best for the players, what is best to keep our leagues competitive across the country, rather than having one ginormously incredible league, BCHL/AJHL now, rather than having 10 competitive leagues where anybody can play and get a chance to follow their dreams. Again, there's a lot that goes into this. A lot of mom and dads are going to be very upset by this situation. A lot of coaches will be upset by this situation. However, I do think next year's BCHL is going to be an incredible league to watch. It would not surprise me if we see many of these individuals on NHL scouting lists. We'll see what happens. I appreciate you guys so much.
He was going good there, and I was agreeing with everything he said. Yeah, this is a shakeup. Yeah, there's going to be there's a lot of things that he said that were true there. However, two things. One is the coaches aren't sitting around going, what are we going to do next? Because coaches don't make the decision on this. Coaches might have the ability to talk to their ownership and say, here's what we need to do. But for the most part, they don't have a say in this. This is ownership and ownership decisions. And most of these teams, you look at a lot of these teams in the AJHL and the CJHL in general, these are community teams. They have boards. They're either owned by the community or they're heavily influenced by the community they're in. And so getting that wedge to go independent is a larger risk when the community says, hey, we've always been tied to Hockey Canada. We've always been tied to the provincial, organization. I don't see that changing much. The other point before you say anything, Mike, is, you're not going to, you don't put a lot of guys, the players on those teams don't magically get better to the point where they're on the NHL watch list. You don't add 5 teams and get more players that are NHL level players by adding 5 teams. So the NHL watch list and saying, I predict there's going to be more players in the NHL watch list. More maybe in the BCHL because the AJ usually has a few players on that list, but there's not going to be collectively more in the AJ and the BCHL because of this move. Does that make sense, Mike?
Yeah. I think it's not like the talent of the league overall where it's like you have, the same amount of NHL caliber prospects that are playing in the BC League last year as there is this year. And there will be, next year. The only difference is the AJ players that typically are also on the NHL scouting list are now going to be on some of those teams because Brooks will have 1 or 2, sometimes 3 every year that, people are tracking and whatnot. And I'm sure there's a couple more on, whether it's, some of the other 4 teams that are going over there, but it's not like all of a sudden the whole league is going to have WHL caliber players playing in it. It's just not how it's going to work. It's just going to be more teams. Really what it is it's going to be the same level of the BC is going to be the same level of ability as it's always been. The AJ is going to take a big drop because they're not going to be the, hey, we're close to the BC type mentality, because all their best teams have now shifted over.
Well,
So they're going to
Brooks,
be a little bit of a
once you lose Brooks here, you've lost your connection to elitism and the ability to say we're close to the BCHL. First of all, they have about a third of the commitments percentage wise, and per team capita, it's about a third of what the BCHL has. And I'm surprised he didn't run with a little bit more numbers and a little more statistics in this. But the other thing too is, he mentioned a little bit about you can get players from anywhere. Well, why is it that they did not get all the players from Europe? Because that was a big, political move to go independent, to say we want players from Europe, like the USHL and like the NAL. What's your thoughts on why that hasn't happened? I know what my belief is on this.
Well, I mean, number one, it's for anybody that's out in, let's say Sweden, because that's probably a big hotbed, but Sweden, Russia, Ukraine, Latvia, all those different nations, Finland, this is all new to them. Like, this wasn't a destination that they ever were looking at before, as going to the BC League. So even if they started calling and reaching out, these kids, they're not familiar with it, and the advisors aren't familiar with it. So instead of being like the guinea pigs of trying going over there for the first time, they stayed with, hey, we'll go to the USHL, we'll go to the NAL type thing. And then the other side of it is these different programs aren't used to reaching out to kids in these areas. So they don't have a pipeline set up, to
now
where
you're
they
preaching.
got staff out there and
infrastructure
programs out there.
Yep, there needs to be an infrastructure, and infrastructures across the board take time. None of the BCHL, well, they might all have a friend or know this guy, or added a scout here or there, but you're talking about those 5 teams coming up to speed, and the BCHL is 1 year ahead. The reason why you don't see a ton of them is there's no infrastructure built yet. It takes time to build a scouting infrastructure. I can guarantee you, Mike, you've been doing this for years, and you're doing it at a high level, and you run a scouting department for a NAL team. That's a pretty big deal. Okay. How many times do you go, oh, that's this Swedish league and that team, and I know Bob, the coach of this, we're in this, and we're in this full time, and we're not advisors talking about it. We're in it, and we know that you need an infrastructure. We know how hard it is to build that infrastructure, and it takes time. You might not get a European flow of players for 3 to 5 more years before it's a continual flow into the league.
Yeah, and as well as I do, when you switch leagues, or you jump into a league for the first time as a scout, it takes you at least maybe 2 to 3 years before you really get a feel for what caliber of player actually works in that particular league. So even if some of these coaches or people who run programs in the BC League have, some friends or other people they're connecting with out in Sweden or Europe or whatever, those people may be able to identify like good players, but they still don't quite know what exactly works in the BCHL.
Right.
What exactly works in the NAL? Like, what is the different, finding a good player is the easiest part. Finding the right fit for the league and the program and things like that, that's the hardest part. So
and we in the NAL, we talk about that being our squeeze. We've got the USHL above us, and we're competing with the BCHL. There's that squeeze of knowing what player is right for our league. The guys that are over in Europe right now don't know where that squeeze is. Is this guy a USHL guy? Is this guy a NAL guy? Is this guy a BCHL guy? There's going to be a lot of the learning curve moves, because nobody wants to be that team that goes over and lines up 3 or 4 guys for the BCHL to find out that they're all going to get drafted into the USHL and they don't have a shot at them.
Right.
So it's just a learning curve. That's all.
Or vice versa. They send a couple good players that they think are locks for the BCHL without realizing what the caliber of that league is. And then those players, are a fish out of water and just can't survive in that league. And then, that makes them look bad for, not having a good gauge of what that talent is. So it just takes time.
Yep. Okay. Let's get back to Stefano here.
For watching. Thank you very much for taking the time. Please don't forget to like and subscribe, and leave your comments down below. I'm curious to get your opinions about this news. Curious to see what you guys think about this expansion of the BCHL. Have a great day, everybody.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Stefano. First of all, kudos. Very, very tough to get on and put yourself out there for a discussion like this. So kudos to him. Kudos to what he's doing in his firm. I don't, you know me, I warn people all the time. Information, especially news information on Facebook, on Twitter, on Insta, and on any of the platforms, if the root cause is coming from advisors that are giving you news, you have to really know that. And this is one of those cases. I honestly think that this is a good piece to have out there. You didn't say anything that was crazy, and the information was fairly accurate, at a sophomoric level. And I don't say that as a knock, but there's clearly people out there like us that are way deeper into this, that understand a little more of the dynamics of this. But that's what we do. For somebody in his spot to do this, I think that's good. And I think it's good to have a video out there like that, as long as you can temper. It's the critical thought thing. Where's this coming from? There's a couple people out there that call themselves news sources that all they do is try to attract people to become clients. I think in this situation, I got the feeling that his firm's really trying to put information out there and help people understand this. I don't have a problem with it at all.
Yeah, I think they they double as like a media company where they do these types of information pieces and things like that. But then they also, I think, advise people and whatnot. But a lot of their web presence is just information videos that it doesn't seem like they're soliciting for you to do their services. It's just something else that they do. So
Right.
I don't have any issue with what they do. They're, I've watched their videos before, like you said in the beginning. I've heard of AHA. It's usually like when that video ended, I saw the guy with the red hair. He's normally the face of it that I've seen in other videos and whatnot. But overall, that was a good video. I think it shared at least enough information for where things are at right now. And I don't know when that was put out, but I think when he mentioned a few times parents being upset, I think that was early on, because a lot of parents were upset if you were one of the 5 teams that were branching off and your games got canceled in the AJ and nobody knew really what was going to happen and whatnot. And that's kind of changed now, where they're a part of the BCHL and they're starting to play league games against each other. And, they're not being lost in the shuffle like people once thought. And things have kind of resolved itself in that regard.
Yep. So a couple things. Sorry, folks. I'm allergic to Bloomer, and every time I get near him, I start coughing again. So a couple things. One is, the only issue I have is having a little bit of a shallow depth of knowledge on this. And, part of it is just, the being new to doing this and not knowing how deep you got to go to really understand this stuff. But I think it's a good thing. I think the videos out there are going to help people, and have no problem at all. If there's a video out there that you would like us to do these reactions to, it's not really what we intended to spend a lot of time doing, but I don't think it's a bad thing that we grabbed this guy's video and went through it. And I hope that maybe he realizes that he can jump a little bit more and put an extra hour into the getting into the weeds on these things before he actually publishes. But I like it. I think it's a good deal.
One of the things he said, though, I was going to ask you what your thoughts were. He mentioned just unsanctioned leagues in general, and whether you thought more leagues might turn to this, like with the NUL or the USHL or the CCHL or anybody else turn to it. And he made it.
So there's a million reasons why the USHL won't. Million reasons why the USHL won't leave, and they'll stay attached.
$1 million
worth of money that comes from an NHL grant to USA Hockey that feeds straight into the USHL for their marketing. Most of that money is used for showcasing their teams. So, and the NUL has a lesser amount of money that comes out of that grant, but they still have money. They're in a good position. Both those are the pieces for USA Hockey. I don't see much change there. Now, does that mean that, an ownership group doesn't get a little bit squirrely and says, we're out of here? I mean, over the years that's happened. So could that happen again? Yes. But if you already have an NHL relationship, you have the national development program playing in your league, and not only are they playing in the league, but they routinely showcase games at the beginning of the year with the NAL. And remember that the national development program was with the NAL for years before they went to the USHL. So there's a good relationship of having the best players in the United States and the world come to your league and play in your league. So I don't foresee any reason that anybody in those two leagues would leave. I would foresee a relationship between the NCDC and the BCHL, and maybe it's a tiered where, hey, we're the independent tops, which would be the BC, and they build some kind of relationship there because the power and numbers of the NCDC and the USPHL model are big. That model, nobody thought it could sustain because, and maybe you start seeing some cracks sooner or later where teams in the West, teams in the South don't feel like they're getting love or attention, and they get frustrated with having to pay a big fee just so the NCDC can participate for free, because that's where the money comes from. It doesn't come from, none of those teams are self-sustaining. There are
Right.
no fans. There are absolutely no fans in the NCDC. It's grandmas, it's parents, and girlfriends. That's what comes and watch your games. So that's the only way they can sustain themselves is to build a big base below themselves, take money from those teams to support the teams on top of the pyramid, which is the NCDC. So it's sometimes does that crack, and do they, in the past, that's always the way it's been, where a league gets to 20 players or 20 teams, I should say, and 5 of them get upset, just like in the AJ, and they break off again. I'm very surprised that we haven't seen a major break off at the USPHL level over the last 5-8 years here, and then that surprises me again. So the answer is, will you see any of the big boys break off? I can't speak for all the teams because I think that there would be some teams in some of the other leagues inside of the CJHL that would. But remember, you got the 2 top leagues that had players break off, or teams break off. One whole league did and 5 from another. Those were already the best teams out there. So why would they take a team from the SJ or a team from the MJ? They're not at the same level. You got a few teams that have brand ability. They have marketability because their brand is strong, but they don't have the same infrastructure as far as, to get quality players there. Hence, you have teams in the MJ and the SJ, maybe the CC and the OJ also, that are well organized. They're well coached, but they just don't have the ability to bring in top talent. And so I don't see a break off, and why would the BC want to have exposure into the East when they dominate already with just a Western presence in the country? So I don't know. My opinion is, you're not going to see a mass exodus from any leagues at this point. What do you think?
Well, I don't like the idea of having unsanctioned leagues and teams all over the place. So I'd prefer, personally, just having that oversight, and all teams are underneath the same umbrella, and they're, when you're in an independent league, you're self-monitoring. So that means you're always going to do what's best for you, whether it's an individual team or it's a team within that league. There's no one else that you have to have overseeing what is happening. So, there's a lot of gray area there that you can play in. And I don't always think that's positive. Whereas some of the things he highlighted were the positives in those situations, with players being able to freely leave and kind of move around and things like that. Well, there's also the negatives that come with how that can be operated as well, and roster sizes and, different things like that you can kind of manipulate and play around with. So I personally don't like it, but I don't really know if other teams will be doing it, or other leagues will try to do it. But my point is, I don't like it.
I think one of the reasons why they finally made the jump is, my having a little bit of insight on this, and I don't have strong relationships with all the 5 teams that left, but I do have relationships with the teams in the AJ that left, and I have some relationship with teams that stayed. And one of the things that was mentioned across the board in my conversations, because we're trying to get the AJ to come on and talk about this. We're trying to get the BC to come on and interview about this, and they both said they will, but they're not going to do it until it all calms down a little bit. They want to let it settle a little bit, and so they can have a more intelligent conversation about this. That the reason this worked was proximity and the fact that there were 5 teams. If there were only 2 teams, this probably wouldn't have worked. Maybe they would have taken Brooks by themselves, but this gives natural. It becomes its own division because they have a 5-team division, and they were able to take a whole group of teams that they could actually logistically work out a 5-team division, and it doesn't hurt anybody. It's actually a little bit of an improvement travel wise for those 5 teams because of where they're located in the province. And of course, there's going to be some travel over to the BC, and BC is going to travel over. I'm sure they're going to come up with how many games are crossover games. But as well as I do, the Null doesn't have any crossover games. You play a showcase at the beginning of the year with 3 or 4? Is it 3 or 4 games at Blaine?
4 games.
4 games at Blaine where there's crossover with the other divisions. Then all the divisions stay in their lane. So until playoffs come around, and you got to get out of your division to go play one of 3 other teams that make it out when you get to Blaine. So, yeah, in my opinion on this, this is kind of the perfect storm for the exodus because of where they're located geographically. You can't take a team from the Ontario area and add them to the BCHL. Nobody's going to want to travel that much. It just doesn't make sense. You'd have to have 5 teams leave the Ontario Hockey League, Junior Hockey League, OJHL, or the CCHL, or a combination of 5 or 6 from both those leagues. So I just don't see it happening.
Yeah. So the other point you made when you were talking about the USPHL and the NCDC and how the USPHL and the youth programs kind of, provide the tuition-free services in the NCDC.
They don't kind of do, they do.
Well, I'm saying that they do. But so how does the BCHL provide tuition-free hockey? What's propping them up financially?
Fan base and community support. So, you put 1,000 people in the stands at a much lower, you're talking about lower ice cost than we can even imagine. When you've got a local rink that participates at a cost price for daytime ice, and the weekend game ice, and you put 1,000 people in the stands, or even 400 or 500 people that are paying customers, makes it sustainable. When we had a EJ team, and then what is now the NCDC, we wanted 200 to 300 people in there to cover the cost of the ice for that night. Because remember, East Coast hockey, $400 an hour at prime, and it's even higher in areas. But when you got a high ice cost, and you've got a referee expense, and you've got the accommodations that have to go along with a game night, with hiring extra people and extra staff, we wanted 200 to 300 people in the stands as full payers to make sure that we covered the cost of the night. We weren't looking at covering our practice ice. We knew we had to go to other sources to make money for that, and that's when we were in the league offering a product which was tuition free. And that's one of the reasons why we made the decision to leave the league, was we could not sustain that model. And what a lot of people don't know is it's not equal. You have the owners of several teams in the NCDC and the USPHL that set the rules, and they set the rules tilted towards them making a profit on this and running it as a business. And it's not an equal distribution of money, or even an unequal distribution to help the teams that are further out logistically from the middle. So if I'm geographically setting 6 hours away from the hub of teams in the league, they don't give you extra money. They may actually give you less money because they don't want to travel, and they're going to try to squeeze you out. So you look at this model in the NCDC, there's a lot on the backside that people don't understand. I don't think the BCHL has that issue. I think the BCHL set this up to be more equally distributed, but they're not collecting a tax from all their teams below them, unless they've always done that with their local youth organization, and where so much money out of the pot of money locally. And I can't pick out any one of the organizations, but let's say the BCHL was in Rochester, New York, and Rochester Youth Hockey was below it, and they bring all their tuition in, and they say 5 or 8% of all that tuition goes towards supporting the junior team. Yeah, that could happen. So they have that ability to draw money. I know that does happen, but they're not taxing teams the same way they're getting taxed to be members through the NCDC and the USPHL model. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I know it's not the same model. I was just curious if you had any insight on where they're able to supply, all the revenue that they're lacking from Hockey Canada now, or from the NHL filtering it down similar to USA Hockey does to the USHL and the NUL and everything like that, to break off from that. And then also, be kind of that renegade league. They've got to have some sort of financial support coming from somewhere. I just don't know where, because otherwise,
it's a sustainable model because it's already been a sustainable model. You're not starting with
new teams. Only 2 years into it, though. That's the thing.
No, what I'm saying is the BCHL has always been, self-supporting as far as the teams. There's no, when you put 800 to 1,000 people, 1,500 people in the stands, and let's say they're doing it at $500 or $5 a piece, and that might be low. Some teams are charging $10 or more a person. But if I've got 1,000 people in the stands at $5 a piece, that's $5,000 of revenue for that week. And if I've got a deal with the concession stands, or I've got T-shirt sales and some other things that are on top of that, that's where the money's coming from for the most part. Remember, you're talking about some of these teams that are running on $100 an hour on ice time for practice a week. You're talking about for the most part, compared to the NUL and the USHL, lower paid coaches, and that's why once in a while you'll see a coach of a BCHL team leave for the NUL or the USHL, and you're like, what? Why would you leave such a great league? Well, a lot of it's just on the ability to make a living and to upgrade there. But no, these teams can for the most part self-sustain. Doesn't mean an owner doesn't have to jump into his pocket once in a while and throw in to cover the ups and the downs of the year. But even a team that gets 500, 800 people, can support themselves in the AJ. And I know that because I've done some consulting with 2 different teams up there. And one of them was a last place team, and making money was a big part of it. And they wanted to make more and be profitable, but they were covering their nut just as a last place team, just on the fan base.
Yeah, and I guess the 5 teams from the AJ that are going over are some of the strongest when it comes to not only their performance on the ice, but also their fan attendance and the program in general.
Yep. Once again, folks, if there was a question I was going to answer for you tonight, and you're on for me to get involved with that, once again, I'm on the mic. I've got a notebook on the other side of the house, and I have a wife that's already in bed, so I don't have anybody I can text. I've already tried to see if she could bring it to me. Just jump on, throw your question on. I don't think, besides that, we're right at the 1 hour mark, so we'll be wrapping up unless somebody throws a question up they want answered. Throw your comments up, throw your questions up. We appreciate every single one of you. We are taking note. We're going to have a shake-up. It means that we might have to give Bloomer his own show so that we don't have this show brought down by the presence of Bloomer here. Might shift him off a little bit and bring in a new personality that doesn't sit there and nod his head when he's a postage stamp guy on a big screen when we're doing these reaction videos. You got to watch more reaction videos. Watch reaction videos on the Taylor Swift. That'll help you. Just
do what?
Watch
Taylor Swift.
Yeah, watch Taylor Swift reaction videos. That's the first one I pulled up. I didn't know what the hell I was looking at. I heard I should be looking at reaction videos, so I put reaction videos, and the first one came up was Taylor Swift. So I watched it first time ever watching. I've heard her music before, but I'm not what do they call it? Swifties? Is that what they're called?
Yeah. So you just watched a music video of her?
Reaction video. I wanted to kind of see how people did this, and how they actually did a reaction video. And I'd heard of them before, and I've seen a couple little ones, but I never actually studied them. And they stop, they break, they talk, they stop, they break, they talk. And the reason they do that is for copyright infringement reasons. But anyway, anything else? doesn't look like we got any questions come. Thank you for all the people that stuck through this. Give us some comments. Tell us if you like us reacting to some videos. Give us some suggestions of videos that maybe you want us to critique because maybe you really like them or you really don't like them and you want to get some opinion on it.
That could go down an interesting path if we let our viewers just start referencing different videos for us to watch.
You know, not only that, but I've been going back and cleaning up some things. I don't know if you noticed, I posted a few things today, but I actually did a redo on, I guess the fancy is Redux, REDAUX, Redo, but I went out and I cleaned up some of our videos that we did a few years ago. And when I did it and I posted them, it depends on where you're watching the clicker, because I'm like, oh, I got 700 views already. Then I'm looking over at YouTube and it's showing as 0 because I posted it on another platform that doesn't click on YouTube. So I'm like, oh, that really sucks. That's 700 views we don't get today that I thought we were going to get. So, but there are cleaned up videos. You see some of the stuff we're posting. I hope you enjoy. I took some stuff that was an hour long and got it down to under 30 minutes and kept most of the, once you get away from me going, there's 30 minutes saved right there.
And some of your never-ending stories you like to sprinkle in.
Isn't that the value added?
I don't know. I guess the viewers can comment on that. Feel free to, share your thoughts on those never-ending stories.
Okay, we finally got a couple comments here. Here's one. Do you think this will affect the MJ-SJHL? Not really. I mean, yeah, because you're not. They didn't expand in the sense of, it's an equilibrium. There was 5 teams. There's still 5 teams. They didn't leave the rinks they were in. They didn't leave the province. So they're still going to be looking to recruit the same way they are now, and a little bit more. They might open up to more U.S. or more European players, but you're not going to immediately have 4 Europeans join your team unless you have an infrastructure you can use. But so the MJ-SJ players, the same opportunities that were there yesterday are here today. So if you have the ability to move up, the only good news is you're not restricted by the provincial rules that say a kid in Saskatchewan's got to play in Saskatchewan. You can play now in Alberta or the BC because of the independence. So, but they're going to grab those players and find a way to do that. The CJHL model, you could get traded between those leagues, and it happened all the time. But I just don't see much change coming from that. Mike, what do you think? I just don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, the only change would be is if all of a sudden they took a couple of the MJ or SJ teams and moved them to the AJ for whatever reason to create like a stronger AJ. But to your point, the AJ is the one that's obviously the most affected, not only from those teams leaving their league, but the caliber of their league is no longer what it used to be.
Yeah, you take away those major institutions that have been, those are over the last 4 or 5 years. The 5 teams that left are the 5 teams that produce the most Division I talent. It's Brooks and the other 4. But they still had good numbers. Even if you look right now, the numbers that those teams are producing were, quasi BCHL level Division I commitments. Percentage wise, not the same, but the level of teams and the caliber of player were pretty darn good. Brooks is like, not this last year or two, but the way the New Jersey Hitmen used to be in the NCDC. The Hitmen could play anywhere. The Hitmen did have scrimmages against the USHL a few years ago. They had scrimmages against the national development team while they were part of this new NCDC model, and they did very well. So it wasn't a talent issue. It's just the rest of the league they're in that pulls that program down a little bit. And I guarantee you, if anybody ever gave some of those top teams in the NCDC the opportunity to go to the USHL, there would be an empty building as they screeched out of the door. That van and all the equipment would be loaded up so quick for that jump. But yeah, this will all wash out. I don't see it happening to the MJ or the SJ unless Hockey Canada gets involved, and the provincial level gets involved and says, let's make a super league. But the rumors will come out on that long before it actually happens. So we would hear about it and would hear the rattles on that. So, okay, no other comments. We'll leave with this. Chris says, there we go, says, whoops, that one came on new. I was trying to get to this one, but I'll jump onto that one in a second. This one is from Chris and says, appreciate all you guys do. It's super helpful. Then all of a sudden we got this one that came in right afterwards. Do you think that KIJHL will take the next step in area, or how do you see the BCHL effect and them not being able to compete at nationals yet? I think we gave you everything we got on this one. On that, I don't think that you're going to see the KIJHL make it maybe a backfill where it backfills on the AJ somehow and is part of, that expansion into the AJ and growth there. But, once again, we'll hear the rumors on that before we actually see any action on that. So we'll just have to wait and see on that one there. Mike, thank you so much for me. Happy Valentine's Day, man.
Yeah, you didn't even get me anything this year.
Yeah, I know. But yeah, I think we were together alone so much last year on the road that, I can bypass any Valentine's gifts for you right now. It's
Planes,
actually
trains, and automobiles.
What's that? Oh, yeah.
I said planes, trains, and automobiles. You still selling those shower rings?
I am more concerned about, pulling into the middle of, somewhere and wherever we're at. I think we're in Oklahoma or somewhere in the middle. It was like the Wizard of Oz, the freaking thunderstorms and the tornadoes, and having a guy that was wearing a pair of overalls, boots up to his knees. He weighed about 90 pounds, driving a truck that looked like it came off the set of a real what's the cartoon show, the Cars, the pickup truck and Cars. And he's got an engine just swinging off the back and forth. I've got a brand new pickup truck, and I'm out trying to figure out what to do in this hail. I'm talking hail about the size of a football coming down, and I'm running around my truck trying to make sure everything's as secure as possible. And all of a sudden, my whole truck jumps about 4 feet forward because Cletus swings an engine in the back of my truck at this rest stop or this candy store we stopped at to try to get protection. And I'm not kidding. It looked like the guy was driving the Cletus mobile from the movie Cars.
Oh, God. The fact that we were at a candy store makes it even funnier.
Our two fat asses getting a candy bar in the middle of a freaking cyclone. So, oh, man. And the whole truck just jumping and wondering what the hell happened. You couldn't see 3 feet in front of you. So I'm out there next to the truck, and the whole truck just goes boom. It moves like 3 feet. And I'm like, what the hell? And that's a big lightning and thunderstorm that just hit this thing. And to find out that it was an engine that just happened to be swinging freely in the parking lot. A freaking V8 just hanging off the back of this truck. Just swinging.
You can't make it up.
You can't.
I tell you, that was so funny.
All right, folks, thanks so much for joining us. Make sure you check out the new videos. If you're not part of our YouTube page that we continue to grow, please jump on and become part of our YouTube family by liking and subscribing at Junior Hockey Advisor. You can always jump on a Junior Hockey Live on YouTube too. And then also our Facebook discussion page, Junior Hockey Advisor, or our discussion group. Join them, have a blast. We just on the one group, just past 11. We're moving to 12 real quick, 1,000 on that. On our other group, we're sitting around 10,000. The total group now between all of them, I just added them up, and I think the number's 35,000. Because I'm all over the board. I'm like, congratulations, we're moving towards 50. I really don't follow it that close to know what our overall, this dynasty that we're building is at. But I know that we're over 35 now and complete. That's 35,000 members in all the different areas. And if you're not part of that, we'd love to have you.
Happy Valentine's Day, everyone.
See you guys. Thanks so much.